Well, Jamari McDowell is now officially in the portal for KU. Who can even come back at this point in time? Plus, we finally got into portal season and heard some potential KU basketball interest and news in the portal.
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on? Derek Johnson with another episode of Locked On Jayhawks. And on today's episode, we're going to break down the latest with KU baseball, KU softball, KU women's basketball. We'll also get into the latest KU transfer portal news and interest of note. And we're going to start things off with the potential returnees. And we know one of them won't be Jamari McDowell, who has also entered the transfer portal, along with recently we saw Flory Badunga enter a few days ago. Bryson Tiller, Paul Mbia, Elmarco Jackson entered yesterday. And now, as of Tuesday morning, McDowell will finish up his KU career playing 66 games, making 39 threes over the course of his 66 games. I think his biggest contribution this season, probably a few games where he made some nice role impacts, either hitting threes or playing hard. He had, 10 points in the first half of the Arizona game. The Players Era tournament, Jaden Dawson gets hurt going up for a dunk. Darren Peterson was out, and I thought he played pretty well over the course of that for KU. And he had some good moments this year, especially for what we figured coming into the year was that he wasn't going to be part of the rotation. He wound up being a part of the rotation, and credit to him for doing that. Credit to him for shooting 43% from three-point range inside Allen Fieldhouse. Now, unfortunately, he didn't get the consistency of that shooting outside of Allen Fieldhouse, and there wasn't much else there besides the shooting. And so I think Jamari posted on Instagram something about people need to, I'm paraphrasing here because I can't say one of the words on the show here, but something to the idea of like, this isn't about money, which tells me this is a role thing. Now, whether it's a Kansas role thing where they're like, hey, we're going to be looking to over recruit you for potential, to where it's going to be more difficult for you to be a role player, or it's him looking for a bigger role. Like, I want to go start somewhere. Who knows? But yeah, I think that's pretty clear. This one's not about the money. It's about, some sort of role, whether it's from KU's side or McDowell's side. And here's what he posted, McDowell. He said, to Jayhawk Nation, I want to start by thanking the University of Kansas, my coaches, teammates, staff, and the best fans in college basketball. Wearing Kansas across my chest has been an honor I'll carry with me forever. The support, energy, and love I've felt in Allen Fieldhouse is something I'll never forget. You all helped shape me both on and off the court. After careful thought and prayer, I've decided to enter the transfer portal to continue my journey. Thank you for everything, Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Rock Chalk always, Jamari McDowell. So McDowell officially in the portal with that. And now when you look at the KU current scholarships available, you're basically sitting on 6 scholarship players, which would give you 9 open scholarships. Now, will Javon Bardwell reclassify up into this class? And then that would give you 7 scholarship players with 8 scholarships available. But either way, it's a lot. You have a lot of roster spots to potentially fill here if you're Bill Self. Will they fill all 15? Who knows? Even if it's 12 or 13, that is still a lot of roster spots to fill, right? Now, who are the potential returnees for Kansas? We know the freshman class with, Kinney, Barnett, Perry, Adkins, again, potentially Bardwell, depending on what kind of happens there. But outside of that, at this point, who could even return? I guess you could say theoretically, the players in the portal who entered from Kansas could return, but do we actually expect them to? It feels like Flory's the one that maybe has the best chance, just because you would be most monetarily excited to match some sort of a deal. But based on how things are going right now, it feels like the further we get, I'm kind of at a point now where I'd be pretty shocked if Flory came back to Kansas. But, I was wrong about it last year, and I'd be glad to be wrong about it again this year. But that would basically mean right now, the players we have not heard decisions from, which maybe that means they are staying, maybe that means it's not, because we do hear like nowadays, this player has decided to stay, this player has decided to re-sign a contract with this team. But that's usually about like, oh, it's the quarterback, or it's like, this starter on the basketball team. I don't know how often we hear about it with some of the backups in the reserves. So, like, are we going to hear news that, one of these players decided to stick around, or are we just going to not hear news? And I think that's what it'll kind of be like. I think with Kohl Rosario, it wouldn't surprise me if we heard news that he is officially staying. But I think what you're going to see is just, if we get to the end of the 2-week transfer window being open and none of them enter in, that'll just be our indication, right, that they are coming back. And I do think when you look at each of their decisions, I think some of it does come down to what does Kansas do here in the portal. Like that might be why we haven't heard from Cole Rosario yet. Like it feels like he would be the next natural one to kind of decide going to do, and he would be kind of the last one remaining here for KU that you feel like would potentially be in the rotation next year. I mean, who knows? Samis Calderon is super athletic. If he figures out some of the other things, then could he be your 8th or 9th man? Like, yeah, sure. But with Kohl, it feels like he could be somebody who, I mean, he started at the beginning of this past season. Could he come into this year and work his way into a rotation spot? Absolutely, especially if the 3-point shot comes around, because we know he is athletic. We know he can be a defensive rebounder. If he just starts making threes, you're going to be at least a rotation player for KU, right? And if you're making them at a high clip, or you're playing good defense to go with that too, then you're a 20+ minute per game guy for Kansas. But from his perspective, does he want to wait it out over these 2 weeks, push it to the very limit, and then decide, hey, KU got commits from this player and this player. Well, that player's a center. That won't really affect my minutes. That player's a point guard. He won't affect my minutes. Oh, but they brought in this one wing, but it was only the one wing. I'll stick around, right? Or they brought in 3 wings. Now it might be a little more difficult for me to. So I wonder if that's going to be the situation for Cole Rosario, or maybe, we do get an earlier decision. Then you have Samis Calderon. And again, is that one where it's kind of like dependent on your waiting on other people? I don't know. It feels like this whole way through, there have been people speculating, like, could Samis Calderon enter the portal because he wasn't really in the rotation this year? And a lot of times that is just enough for a player to, hey, I wasn't in the rotation. I want to go somewhere I want to play. But it is interesting, the messaging that has continued to come from Bill Self on Samis Calderon, that like he's a future pro and he has all this athleticism, and, continually talking about his high ceiling makes me certainly think that Bill Self would like Samis Calderon to stick around, right? Because if you have a super athletic, lengthy kid who is your 9th or 10th man that you're trying to develop into something, that's not a bad place to be if you're Bill Self, where it's like, okay, if he turns into something, we're going to really have something here. And if he doesn't, as the 9th or 10th man, and he transfers at the end of the year, then like we took a home run swing, and, it wasn't a strikeout because we weren't counting on it to be, it's almost like it's a sack fly. It's like you swung for the fences and you move the runner over from second to third. Like it didn't hurt you necessarily, right? If he's expected to be your 9th or 10th man, versus if it does work out and everything clicks and you hit a home run, great, right? So I think that one will be kind of interesting there. I do like the idea of having Samis. Like I do like the idea of having those 3 players return at this point. If you're Kansas, like have at least a little bit of roster continuity. And sure, am I going to have starting expectations for Samis? No, but having a player who could play realistically the 3 or 4 for you, at even like 5 in a pinch, who is athletic, that you could try to mold. At the back end of the roster, again, we're talking 15 scholarship spots now. That's not a bad place to be, right? And with Kohl, the same thing. Like now this year, the expectations would be lower than they were last year. And now you would be coming into a season probably assuming you're going to be coming off the bench and work into a bigger role. And in year 2, where you can get more comfortable, you hope the shot becomes a little bit more consistent. You played well in the small taste, but final taste that we saw you of the season. I think there is an opportunity to get something there, right? And then the final one here is Corbin Allen, and that one feels like, to me, I'm expecting Corbin Allen back, right? He redshirts in year 1. A lot of times you'll see players leave, as I said, if you're not in the rotation. But the idea there being that, hey, I'm going to join this team. I'm going to try to crack the rotation. Oh, I didn't make the rotation. I need to go somewhere else to play. With Corbin Allen, the plan seemed to be all the way through, hey, I'm a local high school kid who needs to develop. I'm going to redshirt. Okay, I redshirted. Like, seems went exactly to plan what you would expect if you're Corbin Allen. So that would make sense for him to kind of return. But will they get Kohl back? Will they get Samis back? Will they get one of 2? Will they get, neither? That'll be very interesting here for KU. All right, some KU portal news, some names that popped up with Kansas having potential interest. We'll get to that next. Today's episode of Locked On Jayhawks is brought to you by Indeed sponsored jobs. And with Indeed, there might be workplace chaos, all these deadlines stacking up, all the things you have to do job? Well, when the pressure's on, you need the right hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs, which helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for with the right skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all their boxes, less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listen to the show, get a $75 job credit to help get your premium job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show by saying you heard about it and heard about Indeed on Locked On Jayhawks. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. UCLA made history by winning its first NCAA Women's Basketball National Championship, dominating South Carolina 79-51. The Bruins controlled the game from start to finish with elite defense and balanced scoring, finishing the season 37-1. Star center Lauren Betts was named Most Outstanding Player, leading a team effort that capped a 31-game winning streak. Under head coach Korey Cotton, UCLA secured a landmark title that has been decades in the making. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes. I'm coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
And you can also check out the Everydayer Club, where you can get the ad-free version of Locked On Jayhawks with the Everydayer Club, and you get the members-only Discord access. Just go to lockedonjayhawks.supercast.com. That's lockedonjayhawks.supercast.com. So some of the bigger news and some of the bigger guys like KU seeming to have interest in trying to set things up with some of the bigger names that we'll get to, and we'll get to those when it becomes, I guess, more public and stuff. I think On 3 listed Isaiah Johnson as being somebody KU has interest with the main three being like Texas, Arkansas, and Kansas, which would be great. If you caught my Isaiah Johnson deep dive, thank you. As you know, I am very, very high on Isaiah Johnson. And if you have not caught the Isaiah Johnson deep dive, go do that right after you listen to this episode, because I think a lot of good info and nuggets and tidbits on Johnson and why I think he'd be a really good addition for KU basketball. Now, some of the ones we heard kind of publicly about some of the interest from KU. The first was UT Rio Grande Valley guard Korey Cotton. He's heard from Kansas, USC, High Point, DePaul, Miami, Ole Miss, Providence, a lot of schools per his agent, Larry Hall. Now, again, my normal every year transfer portal about you don't know when you see these has heard from. To what extent is that, right? Some of those schools might have offered him a scholarship. Some of those schools might have offered him money. Some of those schools might have offered him more money. Some of those schools might have just checked in to say, hey, how you doing, man? Some of those schools might have just been like, do you want to set up a Zoom call? You know, there are different levels of how interested somebody is, right? But what I do find interesting here is on yesterday's show, thank you again, if you caught that one also as an everydayer, we did a search in the second segment where we kind of narrowed things down. We took a look at some guards based on different filters, like guards in the portal who take at least 3 or more three-pointers per game, shoot 35% or better from three, and some of these different like statistical filters. And he was one of the ones that filtered through. So that became interesting to me that Cotton was a name they were looking to. And that obviously, I guess, passes at least one sniff test if you're looking at it from that perspective. So Cotton, interesting player. He has good size, certainly for kind of a shooting guard, combo guard type. He's 6'6", 14 points over 5 rebounds per game. Really good offensive and defensive rebound rates when you compare it to other, combo guards. Also really good block rate among combo guards, like has the ability to do that. He shot 39.5% from 3 on decent volume there. He got to the free throw line at a good amount. He had some good defensive metrics as part of his profile as well. So this would be a player that, like, if you're bringing on Korey Cotton to be one of your bench guards, I love it. If you're bringing him on to be one of the starters, I would say, okay, are you trying to save money at one of the starting spots to go like bananas on the other starting spots? Because then, like, I can understand it. But I think, to me, if you get Cotton, as one of your bench guards, and now Cotton is taking the place of Jamari McDowell's minutes, for instance, who we talked about leaving earlier. Like, I feel like Cotton is somebody who can bring more to the table than what you got with McDowell. And I think that would be a nice addition for that spot for KU. Now, according to that same Twitter account that released that information, Terence Brown, who played really well, especially in the first half in Allen Fieldhouse when he was with Utah. He transferred to Utah this season, had a really good year with them. He wound up putting up almost 20 points per game for the entirety of the season, 19.9 points per game. He had 3.8 assists per game, which is decent there. Had a pretty good steal rate, got to the free throw line at a high degree, which he did certainly when he was in Allen Fieldhouse. Pretty good PER over 21 on the season. But this one's interesting to me because I like Terence Brown's ability to score, create, and get downhill. But I'm worried that because he just put up 20 points per game at the Power 5 level, there's going to be a very high price tag attached. And my worry here with Brown is that I don't know that he's the best defender. He doesn't really do much else other than score. And even then, it's 33% from three on low volume. It's below 49% on 2-point shots. I think that this would be one that I would rather, again, assuming it's going to be which we don't, I don't know for sure, like how much is he getting, right? But I feel pretty safe in assuming it's going to be a good number. I would almost rather use that number somewhere else personally. I feel like there's more you could kind of do with it that I would have some worries there about. We know all the time with Bill Self, like the guys who just score, who don't really do other things, that doesn't fly as well with Bill Self, And so I don't know how it's a great fit. I also, it's not my favorite fit. We'll just leave it at there. I think he's a good player. I think for the right team, he makes sense. I don't think that team is Kansas, if that kind of makes sense. And then the last one we kind of heard about publicly was this from Kaiser. I don't know if it's Kaiser or Kaiser. Sam Kaiser Hoops on Twitter. Charleston Southern transfer A'lahn Sumler has heard from these schools since going portaling: Kansas, UConn, Iowa State, Vanderbilt, Ohio State, Maryland, Ole Miss, DePaul, Pittsburgh, Wichita State, Minnesota, Nevada. It's a very good list there, especially when you see UConn and Iowa State with the way that they've had success in the transfer portal, especially getting some diamonds in the rough. He was a Big South first-team performer this past season, which the Big South has done really well. Kind of as a feeder conference. It's obviously unfortunate, but it is kind of the fact of the matter here. And Sumler is an interesting player as well. I can't remember if he filtered through on one of our filters yesterday, but he's a 6'4" guard, 19 points per game there, almost 5 rebounds per game. Again, solid rebound rates for the guard position, almost 4 assists per game. So you're getting some ball handling there. 52.5% on twos is fine. 41% on threes is really good. And he did it on pretty good volume there too. And then he also had some good metrics, a 21 PER. He would be kind of someone I view in the same, like, I don't know that they would bring on Cotton and Sumler. I could see them being like, we want to get one low major guard who had good production to come in and be our Elmarco Jackson or Jamari McDowell role off the bench that we feel like can give us a little bit more of a scoring punch. So I think I kind of see the idea there if you are KU. So some interesting names. I'm sure there will be more. Like I said, there's some big ones that it seems like stuff is kind of working out. The gears are turning behind closed doors and stuff for KU. So hopefully we'll get to some of that. And we will have some player deep dives coming up here on the show as we continue to do that. We've already had plenty. We'll get to plenty more as well. But more Locked On Jayhawks with some of the latest news. KU baseball, KU softball, KU women's basketball has lost a couple portal players. We'll get to all that next. This episode of the show is brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time. With Robinhood prediction markets, it's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your position live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets change the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Thanks again for joining us. Don't forget, you can check out the Everydayer Club if you want to get the ad-free version of the show. Check it out in the show notes, and you can click that link to get ready for that. Okay, so KU women's basketball, not the only KU basketball team that's suffering portal losses. Keeley Parks transferring out, and that's one that's interesting. I think Parks had to deal with some injury stuff this year, but she was a former five-star recruit, very highly recruited player for KU who came in as a freshman this year and wasn't able to make as big of an impact as I'm sure she was hoping or KU was hoping. But again, I think there might have been some injury stuff in there. So that'll be kind of interesting where she winds up. And then Laia Konesa ends up transferring away, who's more of kind of your ball handling, give you some extra passing out there guard. Originally came in from Spain, and she's going to be transferring away. And so this becomes interesting because I already said before, KU needed to get a nice guard via the transfer portal, right? You're looking at Samaya Nichols needing a running mate in the backcourt. And now that both of these players are gone, that only enhances that need at the guard position for KU. And, you lose Ellie Evans, who's winning 3-point shootouts and is providing 3-point ability for KU. Obviously, when you're surrounding the roster around Nichols and having, Jalea Davis in the post and having some interesting, fives in there, whether you're talking about the two returners they have down low, or you're talking about the incoming freshman in Sydney Bryan, who's a top 40 recruit. You need some shooting to surround those players. And so I'm looking at those 2 and 3 positions right now for KU and going, can you find some good transfers who can provide some outside shooting and some scoring punch for KU? And, can you find a 3-and-D wing type to kind of come in and make some noise if you're KU here for Brandon Schneider in what is a very, very important offseason. KU softball, by the way, they are ranked 23rd now, so they get that 3-game series victory, 2-1 over Arizona State, who was ranked last week, and that allows KU softball to now be ranked 23rd. So they're going to be hosting Baylor starting Friday for a 3-game set in Lawrence at Oroka Ballpark. I guess, who knows? It's supposed to rain all weekend. We'll see what ends up happening with those, but they've been off and running, and if they continue on this path, they're going to be an NCAA tournament team, which would certainly be awesome for them, but got to keep the foot on the gas pedal. And then with KU baseball, they're actually, as I'm recording right now, playing at number 19 Nebraska. As I'm recording, it's 3-3 in the 7th inning. So we'll see what actually happens there. If KU could get that win, that'd be gigantic. You're on the road against a top 20 team. KU's been playing really good ball lately, looking to continue to do that. I mean, if you win this game at Nebraska and then you can take care of business and win even the series 2-1 this weekend against UCF and the battle for first in the Big 12, I would imagine Kansas would be ranked next week, but you got to take care of business to win those games. Nonetheless, that series this upcoming weekend against UCF, first UCF, second Kansas in the Big 12, is going to be an awesome environment. Should be some awesome games. If you're looking for something to watch this weekend, again, rain permitting, because I don't know how that's going to kind of affect things. That's certainly something that I would be tuning in, will be tuning into this weekend simultaneously with the Masters. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Locked On Jayhawks. You can find our show anywhere you get your podcast, including on our YouTube page where you can like and subscribe to the show. Check out all our player deep dives. We'll have another one coming up as well right here on LOJ.